joining.
Okay. Should we start the recording now, though?
I think it's already started.
Oh, already done.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, cool. I'll let some folks trickle in then, and we'll get started. And let's see, maybe while folks are trickling in, we could introduce ourselves, the folks on the call. I can start. My name is Megan Powers. I'm a senior manager at CarMax. Our team is responsible for collecting all of our digital data using all of the great Adobe tools. And I am a second-year champion. Happy to answer any questions. We have some pre-selected ones, and also feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll do our best to monitor there as well. Sam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks, Megan. Sam Fonoimwana. I'm the founder of DataJoin. That's our company, and we focus on integrating Adobe Analytics with other systems. I am humbled to be here amongst the Adobe Analytics Champions. I'm not an Adobe Analytics champion. I'd probably be an Adobe Analytics API champion. I know like the 1.3, the 1.4, the 2.0. I know those pretty good. But I do know, about data integration with Adobe, and I did my best with your questions. So happy to be here with you all today.
Brian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, yep. So I'm Brian Cook. I'm a digital analytics manager at Disney. So I'm a first-year champion, but I've been very Adobe focused my whole career. Been working with it for maybe 14 years. So yeah, just excited to be here.
Awesome. And Deb?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Deb, first-year champion as well. I've been with Deloitte for about 8 years, but I've been working on Adobe tools for a little over 10 years. And yeah, my world revolves around workspace right now. And I'm an admin for the Deloitte site. And my focus is mostly on data governance and data analysis all the way through. So hit me if you have any questions, but I'll be on mute and in the background over here. But you're in great hands with Sam, Megan, and Brian.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, what we're going to do is first walk through some of the pre-submitted questions that we've put some thoughts into the workspace for. We have some text thoughts, some visualizations that go along with it. We'll also try to monitor questions that are coming in to the chat. And we had a few questions posted in the European Champs office hours as well, that if we have time, we can go through in case those help answer questions that maybe you all had similar thoughts. So, all right. So I will go through. Feel free to stop me at any point if, I don't know, my screen sharing goes awry or you can't see or hear something. Other champs, just let us know. And this is recorded, so there will be a recording of this office hours along with the other Adobe Analytics user group events at this YouTube channel, which we can drop into the chat now, which I just did. Sorry, all these are recorded, and we offer one of these every month, so be on the lookout for the next one in April. Okay, so the first question we got was how to build segments to understand overlap in searches within multiple workflows. Venn diagram, question mark. So one of my responses was, yes, absolutely, you can build a Venn diagram just like you suggested. You can also use the segment comparison panel, which produces a Venn diagram among many other helpful visuals. And I can show that here. So this, I built this in advance just because it takes a few minutes to build, but to find this, you just go up here to the panels in the upper left corner and click segment comparison. You can then, I won't build it now, but I'll show you how that looks when you drag it in. You basically pick 2 segments you want. You can compare 2 actual segments, or you can pick 1 segment and then say compare against everyone else. And click build. There are some advanced settings here where you can tell it to exclude certain dimensions, metrics, or segments, which can be really helpful if maybe you have a lot of geographical segments that are not going to be relevant for whatever dimensions you're looking at. But that's how to build the panel, but it does take a couple minutes to build, so I just went ahead and did it in advance. I just picked a really simple one to do desktop versus phone, and it's showing you the unique users in a Venn diagram here. Obviously, there's no overlap between those. Obviously, different segments would have more overlap, but it gives you some helpful numbers on how many are in desktop, how many are in phone, how many are in overlap. It gives you top metrics against segments. So what this is doing is pulling the most statistically different metrics, dimensions, so evars and props, and then other segments against those segments that are the most different between those 2 dimensions or segments that you selected. So I'm not sure if that's totally getting to the user's question, but those are a few different ways that you can understand overlap in searches. And then I believe, Sam, did you want to add your thoughts here as well?
Sure. Yes. Thanks, Megan. Yeah. So the way I interpreted this question is how can you know the overlapping keyword searches? For example, like combinations of keywords that visitors to your site, might have searched for. That way you can start to know a little bit better like what they're interested in. So that's the way I was interpreting the question. And so when I went to try the Venn diagram, it looked like it was good, but it looked like you could only compare up to like 3 different segments. And so what I did was I created segments for just the top 3 keywords searched for. In this case, if you scroll down a little bit, Megan, it was a keyword 24, keyword 15, and I forgot the last one. And those are basically unique visitor segments that I created, or sorry, not unique visitor, but visitor level segments that I created if they search for that particular keyword. And then what you can do is you build this keyword report by unique visitors. And then if you scroll back up, you can start using the segments as a filter, basically. And so what you see up top in this particular report is that it's filtered on all those unique visitors who for sure search for keyword 24, right? That's what's in the segment filter. And then you can see that, of those unique visitors, 842 or 100% of them, of course, they search for keyword 24. But you can see that 5 of them search for keyword 8 as well. And 4 of them search for keyword 107, mod 11. And so this is a way that you can start kind of layering in. So if you want to say, okay, well, let me see, those who search for keyword 24, and then, let's pull in, one of the other keyword segments. If you scroll down, Megan, to the segments, just on the left, if you scroll down to the segments available, let's see. And then can you just type in, or maybe do show all? Can you type in just KW, and yeah, let's see what filters there. Okay, so it might not be available to this workspace, but basically the idea is you can say, okay, well, give me, like those 5 people who search for both keyword 24 and keyword 8, pull in the keyword 8 segment also up top, and then you'll see like if they search for any other keywords. And so the idea is that you could see more than 3 here, but you could see, which, of the 2 keywords, and then any others that they search for. So that's the way that I interpreted this question. I think it's a little bit, it gives you a little bit more information than the Venn diagram, and that you can see all the other keywords that they search for. And yeah, that's what I thought that I could add to this question, kind of other than what Megan put.
Any other champs have anything to chime in on this one before we go to the next one?
Yeah, maybe just quickly, I would say that Maybe even in a table, a crosstab is sometimes useful if you want to compare flows. So maybe having a visit-based segment in the rows and visit-based segments in the columns, and then seeing where they intersect, where the values are maybe the greatest is another good option to compare. Maybe a similar keyword across flows or searches across flows.
All right. All right. Let's see. I will move on to our second question, which is this one, I believe. So we got a question of how to go beyond the fallout report, as different items can affect member drop at certain stages of the journey. How to track when visitors go a step or two back and then continue in the process. They take a few days between steps. So some initial thoughts, and I just thought of another one, which I'll talk about in a minute. But one is you can build a fallout report and build in those back steps as part of the fallout report. So AKA build step A, then step B, then step C, and then just put in there step B, step C, step D to indicate that someone's going back to step B and then continuing on from there. So that's one way to do it. Probably a better option, though, is to build a fallout report and right-click on the gray bar and select Breakdown Fallout at this touch point. So that's what I did here. You can right-click here and say Breakdown Fallout at this touch point. That produces a chart like this, where between those two steps that you selected, it's telling you what other pages they went to instead. So I've used that a lot. That's been a really insightful way
nice.
to find, to find like, okay, well, if they didn't go my prescribed path, what did they do? I still want to know like kind of this prescribed path versus a flow report. But if they didn't do step A to B, what are they doing instead? So that can be really helpful. Another one is to create a flow report. You can do a general flow report where you just, have your top page or any page that you want, and you can look at the pages or steps or events, doesn't have to be page, that led to and from that page. Or in the flow report, you can indicate that it ends with or starts with a certain page, metric, or item. And look at all the things that led to this endpoint or led from this start point instead. So there's lots of different advanced settings you can do there in flow reports as well. If you maybe either have a not prescribed path like A, B, C, D, E, or you have a certain start or endpoint and you want to see what happens when you got there. But those are kind of the differences between fallout and flow. Is how I think of them. And then another thing I just thought of is for this last step in particular is to build a cohort table, which I can drag in here. A cohort table can show you how much time has passed between certain metrics. So like between your first visit and like a product view, for example, and there's a ton of cool settings you can do in advanced settings in there. And maybe my dates are not going to be great here, but let's do day instead of month. Sorry, I was doing it. So what happens when you do this on the fly instead of in advance? You have to tinker with it. So what that's going to do is show like, okay, and usually it looks kind of prettier than this, but between a visit and coming back and doing a product view, generally that all happens within one day. But you can obviously change this metric. You can your start metric. You can change your end metric. You can make it more or less granular. You can, instead of retention, which is what I selected, to know what happens like between yes doing this and doing this, you can pick churn, which is what happens when you don't do that thing. And they'll kind of show the opposite view instead. And you can also add segments in here. So, okay, I only want to see this for mobile or desktop or new versus return visits, etc. So there's lots of really cool advanced features in here that you can use as well. So that's a cohort table I will add into this text as a fourth option. Okay. And then, was it Sam, you had added time spent on step?
Yes.
You want to talk through that one?
Sure thing. Yeah, I was actually going for the cohort table too, Megan.
Okay.
I just didn't know how to, I just didn't get it. I just didn't know, like I've done it between like events, but I didn't know how to do it like in between, hey, they went to this page and then they went to this page. Like that's the very next thing that they did. So
Gotcha.
after fiddling with it for a little bit, I kind of abandoned it. And then I did, this different approach. Yeah, let me just, I guess before I go through this kind of time spent on a step analysis, which is going to be similar to the cohort, that Megan showed. In general, like the path and journey analysis can be very complex. I know that I'm pretty sure most of you know this already. It's nice in a demo when it's like a nicely laid out Sankey diagram with just a few nodes. But in actuality, like when you start pulling in, a few different touch points, like a real journey, then it starts looking a little bit like spaghetti. And it can be pretty complex to analyze. I remember, one time I built a custom, like a D3, visualization, because I wanted to get every single touch point, right? Like if they clicked on an email 10 times, I wanted to get like all 10 clicks, right? And if they, came back to the page like 20 times within the session, and it's tough to kind of make sense at kind of an aggregate level. If you're trying to look at every single touch point. So that's kind of my high level thoughts on customer journey analysis. If you can simplify it, like that's normally my rule of thumb. I try to simplify it as much as possible. For example, just look at like 2 steps if you can. Say, hey, like what's driving to the conversion event, right? And like what's happening there. Try to understand that as good as possible. Instead of trying to aggregate, these high level patterns across all customer journeys, because it can get pretty complex. So that's kind of my thoughts there on customer journey analytics. As far as like trying to calculate the time between 2 steps. So after I gave up on the cohort, like what I did was I said, okay, I know that you can create a segment, like a sequential segment that says, hey, if they did this and then they did this, right? So there's nothing in between. They just did this and then they did this. So that's what I ended up doing, is creating a segment, as you see here on the screen, that they went, from the home page, then they went to the app launch page. And so that is like all of the, that's all of the sessions where this happened. And so what I did was I pulled that into the filter, and then you can just take a look at how long they spent on the home page. Like I just pulled in the page, since this segment is only those that went from the home to the app. I pulled in the home page, and then I break it down by time spent on page bucketed. And then you can see, okay, it looks like, 99% of them spent between 30 to 59 seconds. And, that 2.5% of them spent between 1 and 3 minutes. So this is one way, it's, once again, it's not every single combination, but this is a way that, that I thought you could do it, because you could do the sequence inside the segment, other than cohort analysis. So that's my thoughts, Megan.
Okay. Any other champs want to chime in? And maybe we can take a look at that cohort table and see if we can get that to work like you were thinking with the pages. That's a great idea about the segments and the sequential segments.
Yeah, I would just echo the point on sequential segments. I think they can be really powerful. And Adobe has a lot of great documentation out there for how to build them and examples that you can use. But maybe visitors who visited 2 pages in one visit, and then after 3 days came back and made a purchase. There's just so many different options. So I would just encourage everyone to look at the documentation and look at some of those examples, because yeah, they can be really powerful tools to use.
So let's see if we can play with this a little bit, this cohort table. So if we want it to be page instead, we might need to, like, we could maybe do it where we have page equals, like, create a segment where page equals something. Home. And then it's like, that's our segment. So like a visit, you know, I'd have to, oh, we got this helpful little pop-up. Have you tried sequential segments? It's listening to us, folks. So we'd have to fiddle with this, but like maybe page equals home, and then, a separate segment where page equals something different, and see if it, curious, page view, instead of page view. Now, I don't know if this is a real, how much data this is going to return, but you could do something like that as well, where you're trying to get, instead of like metric to metric, but you want to look from page to page with cohort tables as well.
Yeah. And Megan, I just wanted to point it out. So Peter on the chat, he pointed out that the sequential segments, it will still include pages even in between, like unless you specify that it's within one page view.
Correct.
So I just wanted to point that out. That's a good call out, Peter.
Yeah, and so let's show this, because just in case folks are not familiar with sequential segments. So you can say page equals home. Normally you get this, and or operator here, but you can change it to then. Yeah, like Peter said, right now this will include any time that this, or, well, it's not a hit, but if we change it to a visit, anytime in a visit someone does home and then articles, but that could be after many pages in between or no pages in between. So if you want to specify that it has to be the next one, you could say within one hit or one page view. I would probably do page view here. So this would be a way to specify that this has to happen back to back. So lots of different ways to do kind of the pathing. There's fallout, there's flow, there's cohort, there's sequential segmentations. And you can even build sequential segments from your fallout. I think if you do create segment from touchpoint, it will build, that's not a good example. It will build this sequential segment for you. So that's a helpful shortcut too.
And Megan, I had one last thought on this.
Yeah.
If it's okay.
Yeah, please.
So what I was thinking is, outside of Adobe, like in SQL, you can do like window functions and do like time calculations based off of kind of the last, previous visit, next visit or next touch. And I haven't looked into it yet, but maybe those derived fields, in CJA, it'll allow like some of that functionality to do some of these calculations that are kind of SQL-like calculations, but inside of CJA. So I don't know if anyone has tried to explore that yet, but that's probably something our team will look at to see if those type of things are possible in CJA.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Moving down, I think we are here to. I'm wondering if I can add product views events on the action event, which is changing options like color or storage. A couple thoughts I had posted here. And I know you probably aren't on off mute to be able to answer, but there's a couple ways you can interpret this. If you are asking if you can fire the prod view event on the same server call as another event that gets captured, yes, that's technically possible. I don't see any reason why you can't do that. That could go in the same call. For example, like we fire a prod view event when our product page loads, along with several other events. I don't see any reason why you can't fire a prod view event when maybe you have like custom event 81 that says customer changed color. But I'd just be cautious about doing that, firing it with multiple events, because that will inflate your prod view numbers. It totally depends on your business and your use case. But yeah, I think you can technically do that, but just make sure you know the number of times that that's happening, and whether you actually consider it a prod view or not would be my only suggestion. And then one of the other champions add this view. Maybe I did. It's been a while. But yeah, just looking at your product variable with various events. And if that didn't answer your question, feel free to post in the chat, and we could try to get some more explanation.
And Megan, I didn't put anything, but I did ping my friend Mark Stringham, who's he has a wealth of implementation experience. That this is a little bit outside of my skill set, so I could just read what he said.
Sure.
And hopefully it'll help with the answer. So he said that you can add product views at any time. However, I would add them only when the product is first presented, page load, etc. You can always use an event to track interaction after the product view.
That would be my opinion as well. Like that's kind of what I'm saying here too is, you can technically add them at any time, but I think you want to be careful about what you're counting as a prod view. And I think I agree, fire that like the first time that product is viewed, and then use potentially other events for these other options. So, yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, we can monitor the chat and see if there's any follow-ups to that one. But if not, I'll keep moving along. Someone asked, how can we ensure accurate and reliable data collection, such as debug view and real-time data check? I'm not sure if this is the answer you're looking for, but one thing my team relies on heavily is alerts to proactively find bugs. You can set anomaly alerts or volume-based alerts. We have alerts on all important KPIs, and then there are also other tools like ObservePoint that can run automated audits of your site to find tagging bugs. So maybe this is some copying and pasting from the other. Sorry, yeah, this looks like copy and paste from some of the other So I'll make that into a separate post. Yep. So those are some things I deploy. If any of the other champions have thoughts on this one, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I can chime in with, I guess what I've done. With our limited testing, we use the Experience Cloud, debugger, quite a bit. We'll also use, just Omnibug just to test if things are firing properly on the page. If we, click a button or something and we set up event tagging for that. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking with the question, but that's my experience with whenever we're setting up new events or passing new data into Adobe, we tend to go into the console and test it. So
yeah. Adobe also has a new quality testing tool called Assurance, which has been really helpful, particularly with the web SDK and with native app testing. We use that quite a bit for both of those things. It used to be called Griffin, if you're more familiar with that term. I think it's like beta name, and now it's Assurance. Okay. We got a question about how does Adobe handle analytics, handle data privacy and compliance with regulations like GDPR. There are privacy settings in the admin functions that you can use, so I definitely recommend those. There are a lot of custom settings you can set, like specifically for privacy and GDPR. One policy I enforce in my organization is that we never capture PII data in Adobe because we can't remove it, really. I think there are ways you can involve client care and maybe pay some money to have data removed, but that's obviously a very painful process and isn't very instantaneous per some of the CCPA and GDPR requirements. So it's just easier as a blanket statement for my company. I just say, we just don't capture it, at least in Adobe. So we do various things with third parties to like capture hashed stuff, but yeah, not in Adobe Analytics UI. So any other champions have anything to add there?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing with, a lot of what we do at DataJoin, we're integrating in, data from Salesforce where, of course, you know their email address, or, from Marketo where you know their email address. But just as a rule, we just piggyback off of Adobe's policy of not passing PII, like what Megan said. So, that's one thought, I guess, just kind of reiterating what Megan said. One other thing, I've got to go back and check the APIs. We work a lot with the APIs, obviously, for our integrations. But I believe there's settings in there that make it friendly so that you can exclude those who have asked to, have their cookies removed from the API pools, so that you're not pulling them into, your analysis or to your integration or whatnot. So I would just kind of take a look at those features as well of the API if you're using them. Sorry, Brian, I know we're hogging the air, but if you have any thoughts, man.
Yeah, no, not for this one. I think that covers all the points that I had.
And I believe this one was kind of an old copy and paste. Which we can go through, but so one person asked how campaign tracking is done in Adobe Analytics. So a couple of us chimed in. If your organization collects UTM query strings, you can either send all of those UTM query strings into the tracking code dimension as concatenated values and use classification rules to create additional dimensions that focus on each UTM parameter, or send each UTM query string into a separate EVAR. I agreed with him about the UTMs. We use those, and we do put that into the default tracking code in Adobe. And we do use classifications to separate out the parameters. Yeah. Just a minute. Sorry, the bus stop just got home. We also use that out of the box variable to capture the UTMs and have them expire on visit, and then capture them in a separate EVAR and classify those and have those expire after a certain number of days, which is like our typical purchase cycle time. And then that way we can have different cuts of the data. And then we also have different query string parameters, which we use in addition to the UTMs. We kind of use a combination of ad codes and UTMs to define our marketing channel processing rules. We capture those as well in 2 different EVARs, one for expire after visit, one for never expire. That just really lets us slice and dice the data to our heart's content and set up some really granular marketing channel rules. And if you're going to do a classification on campaign tracking, I just pasted here one potential syntax you can use for UTMs, which I will post in the chat now. Okay.
Nice.
Yep. Any
Yeah, I
other
can.
champions want to add on to that one?
Yeah, I would just say like a couple use cases we've come across is where you have either like email marketing teams, they want to see like kind of a end-to-end ROI tracking inside of Adobe Analytics, where all the way from like the email send to like a purchase dollars on the website. And so, I think what Megan said about the campaign tracking in the UTM, parsing them out of the UTMs into their own EVAR or using classifications is great. We'll also set up additionally like separate events. So we would create like a new event for like email sends, for example, and then we can use like the data sources, either the API or just kind of manual uploads to be able to, put those sends, opens, and clicks from emails. Or if you're talking about Facebook or Google ad campaigns, you can get the impressions, spend, and clicks on the ads, and write those into those events that we've set up for them. So and for those teams, it's super valuable because now they can see, not just to click or not just to email, open and click, but they can see to like revenue on the website, which is super valuable for those marketing teams. So it's another thought there.
All right, well, let's see. Those were all of the kind of pre-submitted questions. I haven't been monitoring the chats. I've been screen sharing. Other champions, what other questions have been asked in the chat that we could maybe take a look at?
Tatiana asked a question, said, "Hello all, one of the questions from my last interview, please give us an examples when look back was used, how data can be displayed via dashboard or visualization."
Let's see, by look back, I'm familiar with look back in terms of marketing attribution, like the attribution IQ panel. I haven't used look back in others since. Tatiana, is that what you were thinking for like marketing channel attribution? Okay. Yeah, we can share that. And this is something I haven't done a ton of, so that's fine. We can go around. So this is a whole separate panel that you can use. It's up here, upper left, attribution panel. And let's just say okay, let's say product views. And we want to look at last touch Okay. And then here is where you can choose your look back window. So my understanding of this, and other champs, please jump in, is whatever model you select. Okay, so marketing channel is the thing we're going to take a look at, and we can pick which model we want to look at. Look back window is what's going to influence the model. So are you looking back 30 days for last touch channel, or do you want to look back 90 days for U-shaped? Just because it can, the model you select is going to have, different date and times depending on what look back window you use. So if, the first visit with one marketing channel happened 92 days ago, and you are selecting 90 days here, that one might not be included. So it might include like your first visit, which is really your second one. I don't know if I explained that very well, but that's kind of how I think about it. Any of the other champs want to think about it differently?
Yeah, I can jump in here. So, I mean, with attribution, the look back is important. It seems like this could be a pretty sensitive topic, with marketing teams. You got different channel managers, you got the email side, you got all the different paid ad managers, and it could be sensitive topic, of like who like contributed to an event right on the website. And so look back is good, yes, for B2B, this could be a longer window. Like you probably want to look back longer to make sure you got that you had that LinkedIn post, that was like 4 months ago that kind of gave the idea, right, in the first place. But then you also want to see what kind of sped it to close at the very end. And sometimes when you're doing that analysis, it's good to just cut it off. Say, hey, give me everything within the last 7 days. Like, give me all touches. I don't care if it's first, last. I mean, they have a participation model in there, but give me all touches within 7 days of the event. And I want to take, all of this into account, like in my analysis. And so, like, this is one way to do it with the panel, as Megan was showing. One other way, Megan, if you just like, you mind just opening up like a new freeform table, and then I can show you how to build this. You can have kind of side by side columns, which is pretty cool inside the table. So if you pull in, let's see some sort of event that we could pull. Is there like a conversion? Can you just so it's more of kind of maybe like a real world simulation? If there's any type of conversion or purchase or leads is good. Yeah. And then you can pull in like your campaign, like pull in your marketing campaigns for the dimension. Yeah, marketing channel is good. And then what you can do is you can just hover over the leads, and then when that cog shows up, and then click that. And then if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see use non-default attribution model. And then you can click on this. And so let's do like a last touch within 60 days, and then we can apply that.
Yep.
And then you could actually pull in the same event. Like you could pull it in again, and you could do like a first touch within 60 days. Normally I like to do first touch, last touch, and then what's called participation. That way you have kind of 3 different, looks at the attribution to see like, okay, well, did it participate at any point, at the beginning, at the end, or somewhere in the middle? And it's a good way to do the analysis of your campaigns or of your marketing channels in this case, and to look at this together, like as a marketing team, so that you can all kind of see what's going on. This is super like powerful in my opinion.
Yep, this is great. This is something our teams use too. So like you can pull kind of side by side here, like, hey, okay, I've got my 60 days last touch versus first touch, and 30 days last touch versus first touch. So if I want to see how last touch and first touch are comparing with the same look back window, I can, or I can also see how 30 days versus 60 days is performing for last touch. In this case, it's the same, but yeah, and like Sam was saying, your particular marketing channels are going to be, and your business model are going to be more important. Like, if you're selling, I don't know, toothpaste, right? You might have a shorter look back window that you want to use versus like he said, B2B, or like we sell cars, it has a longer purchase cycle. So that's something you want to consider. Different channels may have a longer look back window that you want to consider. So like awareness building channels might have a longer look back window than a like click to purchase type ad. So the actual ad can make a difference too. But those are these panels here, as well as the attribution panel, could both be good to pair how those. But I would align with your organization on like what you want to use for your channel, so you're all speaking the same language. Any other champs want to add on to that?
Yeah, not much new that hasn't been covered, but I would just again echo the point that I think the comparison between the different lookbacks is a lot of times where you come up with really great insights. Looking at just one is really good, but it's the comparison where you can really find those differences and really start to understand your customers. So yeah, we just echo that point. And that's why I really love Attribution IQ, is because you can do it so quickly, look at different models and different windows. And yeah, that can be really powerful.
Cool. Okay. So hopefully that helps Tatiana at least spur on some ideas. Maybe info overload is probably what you'll find at first, but hopefully that'll lead to some good insights. Any other questions in the chat that have come up?
I think that's it. See, let me just one more scroll.
Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. There's one. Miguel Rayos Velasquez. Thank you. My team and I are working on figure out how to implement AA on some of our mobile apps. Do we go over this one already? Which are use a hybrid architecture. Okay. So implementing AA on some of our mobile apps, which are using a hybrid architecture using Capacitor. Does anyone know if there's an Adobe plugin that helps for this? As far as we've researched, the native SDK would only work for components of the app that are native, so we're still trying to figure out the best way to work through this.
I'm not familiar with Capacitor, but let me check in Launch real quick and see if they have any. You might have already checked this, probably have, but I can check and see if there's any plugin or extensions available in Launch for that. But Capacitor is not a tool that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, me neither, Miguel. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's see. How do I spell capacitor?
This is where you go ask Gemini or OpenAI. So
yeah, and this if you haven't already, you could post it in the experience community as well. You may find someone who's used Capacitor there too. I did not see anything called Capacitor when I just looked right now in Adobe Launch extensions. But yeah, we have put the native apps into the native app SDK, and it's worked very well. Again, I don't know much about the Capacitor method, but the SDK worked well, and we did implement it through Adobe Launch. And we use processing rules to implement our native apps, in which our app team developers will kind of create context data, and then we can go in processing rules in the Adobe Analytics admin UI and tie that context data to evars and props. So as far as the app team developers are concerned, they're pretty agnostic of if it's an event, an EBAR, or a prop, what number it is, doesn't really matter to them. They just push out the context data, and we go grab that as analysts or administrators and put them into processing rules. You probably got that. I'll figure it out already, but just in case any of that helps with your implementation. And yeah, I would go post the capacitor question in the Experience League community. Sorry, we didn't know more about it.
There was another question that popped up here. It says thoughts on best practices when transitioning from AA to CJA and recommendations. I've got some thoughts here, but you want to
go for it. I
Megan?
haven't had the pleasure of using CJA, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think our team's been spending a lot of time in this, like in the world of AEP and XDM, because that is what it takes really to transition over from AA to CJA. And there's some good tools out there that can help you to kind of map things into XDM. From your current data layer, you can map it into XDM format. Like our team, we're building those pretty much every day. That's all we're working on, is to try to make that simpler for teams. If you want to just kind of go the fast way, there is the analytics connector, into AEP, and you can, I haven't done it personally, but from what I understand, you can stand it up pretty quickly, and it basically just grabs your data from Adobe Analytics. You don't have to transition to Web SDK or anything. Like, it'll just grab your Adobe Analytics data and then pipe it into an AEP table, that's the source of CJA, analysis workspace right there. Once you push it over, like in a connection. So, like, that's one easy way. I don't know if you've already, explored that, Patricia, but I would look at the analytics connector. But if you want to make the jump, over to Web SDK, into AEP, there are new tools coming out. Like our company, Data Join, we've got a ton of mappers that make it really easy to kind of navigate that world of AEP, which is pretty intense. I'll say that. So that's my thoughts there.
And we have not done CJA, but since you mentioned Web SDK, there is a Web SDK extension now, which we've used, which has been helpful and saved some time. So that's been nice.
Yeah, Patricia said my manager did not want to go the connector way. Yeah. So, I mean, we could sync offline, Patricia. I've got some ideas. If you guys want to go, go straight into AEP, we can go Web SDK into AEP. I can give you some ideas. So.
Anything else? Any other questions? I can definitely hang out for a couple minutes in case anything comes in.
Oh, we're getting some more questions. They're coming in. The longer we stay on, the more questions we get. So
that's cool.
Another.
Great.
Says what are the top advantages of switching to Web SDK?
Yeah. I can mention some. I also have a blog post out there on Experience League. If you want to search for that, I can try to post a link, but it's a step-by-step implementation guide, but it also has like some nice pretty slides with the benefits. But the main benefits are faster. So faster, it reduces the weight of code on the page, right? So it's less custom code, which is always nice. It makes your page therefore load faster, so better customer experience for customers using your site. It also greatly improves Core Web Vitals. We've seen huge improvements in Core Web Vital metrics since turning on SDK. For anyone who doesn't know, Core Web Vitals are things like first input delay, total blocking time, first contentful paint, many others. But they are now a big part of Google's Googlebot SEO algorithm and how they determine SEO rankings. So the better your Core Web Vitals are, the better SEO rankings you'll get. So that was, again, we've just by turning on SDK, we've seen big improvements there. Another big advantage is that it allows you to build third-party server-side tags like Meta's CAPI, like Conversion API, Google Enhanced Conversions, hashed email tagging, stuff like that, which will be very important to start protecting yourself from the cookieless world, cookies that are getting deprecated by Google starting in September. Well, they've already started, but September is really the deadline now. And the SDKs, at least for us, have been prerequisites to be able to add those third-party server-side tags, which not only protect you from cookieless world campaigns you're already running, but also add a lot of incremental value in that they're able to capture a lot more data and send that data to those algorithms where those tags are firing now. So those have been some of the really big benefits for us. And yeah,
I would just kind of
find my blog post.
Yeah, totally agree with Megan, 100%. And then some of the other cool things is, you can just pipe it to all the other applications, that are inside of that are set on top of the Adobe Experience platform. So that's another. That I think that's another cool feature of it. Web SDK can talk to the data streams, and the data streams can send it off to all the different services on top of AEP. So
yeah, and I'm shamelessly plugging, but I'll drop my blog post link in the chat now if you want to grab that. That, fair warning, that is not a technical implementation guide. Like, I did not write any code in there, but it is a pretty comprehensive list of like things to think about before your SDK, like pre-implementation, during implementation, post-implementation, and some of those benefits. Let me see. So, good question. All right. Well, I think we are about at time. Really appreciate everyone joining. We don't have content to share without folks submitting questions. So thank you for submitting those in advance and in the chat during the office hours. It was really great engaging with you all. Hope many of you enjoy Summit. Hope to see. I won't be there in person, but I'll see you virtually, hopefully. And look forward, if you want to attend the next session in April, be on the lookout for that. This recording will be available, and we'll take pre-submitted questions for the office hours in April. So, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and end this. Have a good rest of your week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.